4:05. Let's do it. Hello, everyone. We'll go and get things going here. Call to order. 4:05 Central Administration Building, boardroom. Here we are. We've two people online today. David Taylor, Brian Bosma. Hello, you guys. Greetings, greetings. You missed out on the lemon meringue bars. So, oh well. All right. It's going to be a lighter meeting today in terms of attendance. So with that, we'll go over to our secretary for roll call. Julia?
Michelle Anderson?
Oh, you got to use the mic.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
Michelle Anderson.
Here.
Brian Bosma.
Present.
Christine Brown Gallagher. Not here. Michelle Dedman. Not present. Kaylin is not here. Evans. Lauren Rodriguez. Not here. Victoria Mason. Landon Miller.
Present.
Chris Morgan. Not here. Manny Ortiz. Not here. Ralph Rodriguez. Not here. Julia Rogers is here. Dave Shintani. David Taylor.
I'm
Present
here.
virtually, correct?
Yes, I'm here.
Sarah Gobbs Hill. Here. Thank you.
All right. With that, we do not have quorum. My understanding is we're going to check in with legal as we speak to make sure that we can still continue. And how this will most likely go is that we just can't vote on anything. So there are several items for discussion and presentation today. So for those of us who are here, we will be listening and we'll be asking questions and all that other stuff. But it doesn't look like that we can actually take votes. So Michelle's on the phone real quick. She's going to double check with her folks, and then we'll have an answer for the people online here in just a minute or so. So thanks everyone. I knew it'd be light today. That's how it always is on this June meeting. So stand by. Yeah, and it's worth noting too, the only thing that we're potentially approving is the minutes from last meeting. So not exactly critical. All right, everyone. So we got some feedback from legal, and they've informed us that because we do not have quorum, we are not able to continue today. So with that being said, for the sake of the notes, it's just going to be simply noted as quorum is not met, and then we will meet again coming up in August, which would be August 25th, 2025. That does not. I don't think that does not meet it. Yeah, we need 8. So. All right. Hold on. We're...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right on the board, and we have 16 now. All right. I'm sorry, you guys.
Hey, Landon, real fast.
Yeah.
Can we make some calls with some people and see if we can get them to jump on Zoom?
So Melissa Dedman just walked in. So Sarah's doing some quick math right when I was announcing.
Yeah, well, in the room. Yeah, I mean, technically, I am voting member of the board. It is 5 of us. I don't know if you want to do that or.
All right, Chris Morgan just walked in. So with that, we'll let's make the adjustment for the roll. So Julie, if you have that Melissa walked in, and then Chris got in here at 4:12. And with that, we now do have quorum for David and Brian online. So now we can proceed. So with that, I know I just made comments for the record saying that we would have to stop, but luckily people came in at that before we actually ended it. So with that, we do have quorum, and we will move on to items. Well, we've done attendance and we have done that. So we're on to 201, which would be the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. So with that, we'll need a motion and a second. This would be item 202. There we go. Lost my papers. All right, Dave, move to approve the minutes, and then we'll need a second.
I'll second.
All right, and Chris seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No oppositions. And with that, 202 moves on. And 203, it's going to be an update on the Washoe County School District's chronic absenteeism campaign and EA's efforts to support solutions, including transfer of funds, timelines, and agreements with the Community Foundation of Northern Nevada. So with that, we'll go over to Sarah.
Okay, excellent. Again, this is just a sort of a continuation of the work. We are, as you guys know, we have transferred funds over to, or we're transferring them over the district by the end of this week so that they will be able to go forward with the middle school engagement program, and then we'll do a separate for the supplies that we talked about prior. We have an interim report, which I think everybody has been able to see, and we really incorporated the feedback that this group gave in terms of sharing data, but also really trying to dive in and tell about the student experience. Going forward for next year, we really think that that's going to be really important, the student level data versus school-wide data, because there are some, extenuating circumstances that do affect chronic absenteeism at the school level. We are moving forward with the Community Foundation of Northern Nevada in terms of management of our funds for this campaign, for this collaborative campaign, which is really fantastic. And one of the things that the finance review team or task force and I thought was a good idea was to just bring back really an executive summary of the short-term pool versus the money market, just for this group to see, and again, just to build that transparency. So that's part of your packet in there. And really what you're going to see is, just the different ways that the funds would be stored in these two different methods. We are going with the money market because we do believe we want to do what is best and and most secure for these donations because they're just so important. And again, this is just really a note to try to keep things very transparent so everybody knows. And it looks like we have identified the very first donor for that to open that account, which is really exciting. Once that is confirmed, I will let you guys know, but I'm really excited about that. And that will be a new funder for our organization, which is exciting. Also, in terms of the community, or in terms of chronic absenteeism, we are also connecting back with the data department just to find out what that kind of looks like for this last school year. So just, we'll keep you guys in the loop on that. And as we continue to go forward, we will be looking to build awareness and solicit support for the family resource centers. So I know we have talked about those a little bit in these meetings, but I just want to give a little bit of context that those are facilities or they're centers that are housed within our school district, which is actually very unique for our state. In a lot of places, they're standalone nonprofits, but Washoe County School District decided, and I don't know, in the 90s, I believe, that one of the best ways to serve our families and our communities in need would be to work together to do this. And so family resource centers really focus on helping, our most vulnerable students, families, and community members get connected to the resources they have. And they have been very good in terms of really helping the students we're interested in supporting for chronic absenteeism. And so we're going to be, again, working to help bring in some supports for that because there's a huge correlation, right, with those students that are struggling coming to school with things like housing instability or food instability and factors that are just beyond their control. And then the last thing that I'd like to say related to that, and this is really public news, but I just think something worth sharing, is that the Reno Transit Authority, right, is that right? The RTC, am I saying it right? Yeah. Decided to extend free transportation or passing for any Washoe County School District student. And so that is just such a beautiful example of what can happen when a community becomes aware of an issue and starts to work together. So they're doing their part there, and I'm really hoping to see, some positive things because one of the things we've talked about is that transportation could be a huge barrier, and they are like, let's lean in and help with there. So I think that's everything that I have to share there. Are there any questions?
No, doesn't look like it. Thank you, Sarah. Okay. With that, we'll go over to our next item, 204, presentation and discussion to provide an update on the merger of Washoe K-12 Education Foundation into the Education Alliance of Washoe County, including some communication with past board members and contributors.
Excellent. So as you guys know, this is official with the Secretary of State, and we were really excited to have this happen because we believe that it will be really helpful as we're communicating out with the community and with donors about if people are interested in supporting Washoe County School District and the things that happen here, that we are an institution that can help with that. And so we're looking at, really the logistics sides right now, working on getting the files and merging all of those pieces in terms of the organization. And then we'll be looking to disseminate this information out more widely starting with next school year. So one of the things we're hoping to do is host a breakfast. We are thinking it could be sort of a mingle and network event where people can come in, past board members, and get to spend a little bit of time with Superintendent Ernst and really hear about his priorities as it pertains to the district and some of the work that we're doing. So I just want to let everybody know that that is something we're working on. If there are any ideas or anything that you guys would like to suggest, we are all ears on that one, but we're working on that right now. So just wanted to put that in people's put it out to you guys.
Any questions on that, Chris?
Is it limited to past board members? Would it be an opportunity to maybe bring in potential future board members?
When we were thinking about it in the context of these board members like yourselves who've done so much for public education, Brittany and I had really thought about it's a time for gratitude. And so I wasn't thinking about bringing people into the work that needs to happen so much as like, what have you, I mean, collectively, these, board members have helped so much with educational issues over the years. And so we just thought it would be a great time to kind of talk about a little bit of that work that's been done and continuing on. But let me think about if we identify other board members. I did kind of want it to be an intimate setting so that people felt like they could ask good questions, but it's a great point.
Just thought.
Sarah, I wonder too if it's an opportunity to bring in like a few key, maybe active participants in our Principal for a Day or donors. We did something similar at TMCC where we basically had kind of just an invitation to current donors and former employees of the college who had since retired or whatnot, and it really rekindled spirit in the college and actually rekindled a little bit more donor support. So it didn't move the needle a ton, but the spirit was there, and I just wondered if something like that might give it a little boost as well.
That's a really good point and really interesting. How many people came to your guys' event, if I can ask?
Yeah, sure. I want to say it was around 30 because we hosted it in our culinary space. So I would guess around 30. And again, it was emeritus faculty, former employees, some current donors. I believe you got the invite if you were a current donor at a certain level. Like I said, it almost served as a reunion of sorts and just really rekindled the spirit around TMCC and prompted some more donations to come in.
Wow, that's a great
And it was an
suggestion.
internal donor base, so.
There's my button. And what was the timeline for something like this you were thinking?
We're thinking the end of September. I
Okay.
feel like people are still really engaged with back to school in the fall time, and it kind of gets before gala season. But again, a time to kind of learn what are some, because there's just been so much change, I think,
Sure.
arguably every place. So just getting close and giving, again, the superintendent a space to really talk about the efforts that he is, driving forward with this, with public education in our community.
Cool. Any other questions before we move on to 205? All right. Thank you, Sarah. Up next, we'll do a presentation and discussion of various community school supply drive events to support underserved Washoe County School District schools and students scheduled for August of 2025.
Yes, so first and foremost, an invitation to anybody who can come to any of these schools as we're going to be doing that. We love for board participation. It's just as a feel good when you get to show up and get to support the students and the staff in this way. So we are working specifically with some of our past corporate sponsors and a few individual donors. So this is a little bit new to invite them in to provide supplies and support to several Title I eligible but unserved schools. So that group we've been working with for next fiscal year, there's a few more schools that are in that range. I think it went from 7 schools in fiscal 25 and it's going up to 10 in fiscal 26. And we're also doing a specific drive which will benefit Lemon Valley as it has a large number of new teachers this year, and we really feel like that's going to be beneficial. I'm going to let Brittany talk a little bit more about those details because she's been working with the partners on that.
So Greater Nevada Credit Union has always done a back to school drive for us, and they actually said, hey, do you know which school is going to have the most new teachers? So we worked with HR to get to the bottom of that, and we identified Lemon Valley Elementary. So, I kind of think of it as akin to moving into your first apartment, you need that first set of dishes. So this should make an even bigger impact for those educators. And then as Sarah said, also the Title I eligible unserved elementary schools. So we have the Row, who already supports Hunter Lake Elementary School, but they wanted to do an additional school this year, and we identified Dodson Elementary. And then Renovation Foundation, you've seen them do a lot of work with us doing in-kind donations at schools. And we identified Silver Lake Elementary and possibly one more elementary school that they're going to visit. And then there's another potential partner in ed who would be a new supporter looking at 1 or 2 of those Title I eligible unserved elementaries. Yeah, so everybody's invited. That's going to be that first week of August, right before the teachers, well, right before the students are back. The teachers will be there, so it'll be a chance to, unload, and we'll invite the trustees and send out press releases and all of that. So I'm kind of thinking of it as like, the 12 days of Christmas, but the 5 days of back to school. Because we'll probably do a different school each day that week. So once we have the times really narrowed down, we'll fill you guys in on those details and send out calendar invites.
Yeah, and we really believe that this is a valuable, is so valuable to the staff in the schools. If you guys remember, we did this with Renovation Foundation last year, and we just really heard from the teachers like, oh my gosh, this is so great because, leaving the facility can be difficult, having the things that they can do, they can store extra supplies. And so we really think that is going to be a little bit more valuable than what has been previously executed through the teacher's warehouse. This supply drive also aligns with the closure of the teacher's warehouse. So, as you know, Washoe County School District is facing a budget of shortfall, and so it has been with quick communication that we will be closing the warehouse on July 1st. I just wanted to make sure everybody here had that information as soon as possible, and we will be communicating more broadly in the next week or so to let folks know. So, yep, I just want to let everyone know.
So it sounds like these events will kind of help fill that gap, right? And
That's right. And I truly believe from talking with the principals and the teachers that these targeted going to schools, bringing in new supplies will be more valued than some of the supplies that they have received previously. We heard a lot from new teachers that they, it's so great to have donations, and I really want to encourage the public when they want to be able to do that to approach principals if they have good things, but they want new things for their students, particularly in these underserved schools. I feel like there's just something that says, shows the value of learning and the value to the student when they have lots of, nice supplies that they can learn with. So, yeah.
all right. Any discussion, questions? All right. Hearing none, we'll go on to 206, presentation and discussion on the annual Principal for a Day event as a possible fundraiser for the Education Alliance, including logistics, marketing, and a timeline. Sarah, we'll go over to you on that one.
Yeah, so we've kind of been talking about this one for a while, and really, I feel like this is the time where we think of, we would love, Brittany and I have been talking about your guys' perspective and to brainstorm a little bit about how we can connect a sponsored lunch to Principal for a Day. So we have an ability to gather people together and give a platform to, to be able to debrief, but also more importantly, I think, really talk about public education in our region. And so we kind of wanted to think with you guys today, like what could a lunch like that look like? What sort of elements do we think are important? What kind of price point do we think is realistic for something like that if people are going to come? But really taking, if one of the most impactful programs that you guys have talked about is Principal for a Day, and people leave really understanding that this job is so much, like the job of working in public education is so much harder than they thought, we want to build on that momentum. And I think you guys remember that we had talked a little bit about how the Washoe Education Foundation had also previously had a lunch that was pretty well attended in the community and hosted in coordination with EDON. And so what I'd love to see is sort of bringing those two things together so people are like, yeah, I learned so much here. I'm really excited. I want to be involved, but something that feels like it's truly worth people's time and a thoughtful experience. So with that, we wanted to hear kind of your guys' ideas so we could start to put that together. And in terms of timeline, we're looking to do that February of 2026. So we have a little bit of time to kind of start to, talk with community members and sponsors about it and those things.
I did want to add that we have worked with Victoria, so the row is identified as a likely location for that lunch.
And Sarah, I think most of this group, I know, are pretty analytical as I'm looking around the room. And so my thought was, if there's something that pops into their mind, can they email you directly with the ideas? Obviously, you won't want to email the group, but I just think as people kind of chew on it a little bit, they might have that opportunity.
Absolutely. I get it. Like, I know sometimes that everyone likes that brainstorm. Some people like to process. We're open to both, but we don't want to miss your expertise.
No, I think, I've always been a firm believer in that real world experience, especially when it comes toward like a big ask of people. There's no better ask than putting people inside of the schools to see what the challenges are each and every day. So I think that it's a solid move. I think that I don't know if there's a big expectation to have people come in for half the morning and then go to lunch and then go back. So maybe it's like a later lunch at 1:30, 2 o'clock, as opposed to sending people back. Clearly, those logistics aren't really that important at this point. But yeah, I think that when we talk about what we do, principal for a day is what really gives people an insight into the challenges that the school district faces each and every day, the principals face, the students face, the teachers face. And if we get the right group of people, which we have in the past, involved and put a little spin with a donation angle, however that may look and however we do it, I think that has the most aligned potential of what we do. More so than things that we've done in the past, more so than Willy Wonka, more so than other things. So I think with some thoughtful meetings and ideas, we can do this the right way.
Sarah, the one thing I was thinking about, which I think has been successful in other events, is making sure that there is a representative from the school district that's sitting at each of the tables at the lunch, whether that's a teacher, whether that's an area superintendent, so that the people that are having lunch can ask a question based on what their conversation is. So it expands it a little bit more than just the principals that morning.
Remind me, is the idea then to have like principal for a half day? So you go to the school in the morning, then you come back and you have the lunch. So I think we just need to understand what is the goal of principal for a day? And I think we've talked a little bit about this. Is it about getting the community involved in the school district and that's the primary goal? Or is it to fundraise? And if it's primarily to get people involved in the school district, then maybe it's sponsored lunch, maybe it's like donate if you can, or is the goal to raise money and you ask everyone like, we want you to be part of this, but it's $100 to do it. So I think it really depends on what our goal is.
Yeah, so as we've kind of talked about, I do not believe events to be the best fundraisers necessarily. I really think it's about building awareness and connection. But I do think how I see it is that you could participate in the morning, and this is the one thing this is why we're bringing it to this group, because it is something that's, it has always been a free event. What I could see is like maybe, the companies that are having their employees go and pilot, then, potentially paying for a table. We'll have a table so we can be at the event, so we can listen to some of the things that are happening in public education in this region. So really connecting the fact that public education is so foundational to a healthy community. I mean, I truly believe that, and I think you guys do as ambassadors of public education. We know it, it helps with health and crime and, your workforce development and all of those sort of pieces. So to me, what I would like to see is that, yes, it covers, and maybe we can even raise some funds for high prioritized needs in the district or, in schools, because again, people usually walk away and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. How can I help? Right. And so following that up with, you learn these things, let's be thankful for the work that's coming. How many, folks from your community or from your organization, graduated from the district, those types of things. But then we're really like, yes, your ticket will go to support something, but this idea that people are having that experience. I know myself when I participated a number of years ago, like it was very memorable. I've run into multiple people in our community who say the same thing, like, oh my gosh, that program is so powerful. And I like the debrief that we have, but I think it could be elevated by bringing in leadership to really invite people in to what needs to happen and how can we move forward, right? And I don't by any means have those answers. I'm hoping that some of that will organic. But back to the question about goal, I think awareness, I think it will help us in terms of for people to understand the lane we're in a little bit more, like what is Education Alliance and what do they do? And then I think the benefit of also raising funds that could help something that's needed to bring impact could be great. It probably won't make as much money as Evening of Pure Imagination or those out of the gate, but it just feels more grounded and tied to the work that we're doing.
I have a question. Is this going to kind of focus around, or do we want to keep the message on point about chronic absenteeism in this? Is this something, or do you just want to have a general kind of type of thing? I'm just kind of curious how you want to deal with that.
I know. So chronic absenteeism, I think, is so difficult in the way that we chose that topic because it felt like a number one priority for the district. I do not see us in the space of chronic absenteeism forever, right? Because I think there will be new initiatives. I think there will be other big needs. And so that's something that I'm still thinking about because, to your point, it's such a complex issue. I don't know if it would motivate people like something else, right? And if we're doing some other things that are, if what Education Alliance is to do is we're supposed to help with the gaps. We're helping fill these gaps that exist because public, education is underfunded in some ways. There may be something that feels like it's more connected that would move people more. So I would want to discuss that. Yeah.
Sarah, and this is purely brainstorming, but like I'm remembering back to some of our conversations we had when we were, approving that funds just kind of be given directly to the district, and then the district disperses them. I wonder if it would be more impactful, following the visits with the schools in the morning, right, where they kind of get that firsthand experiences and see like the tangible needs in each of the schools. If we have the schools kind of identify what those tangible needs are, maybe it's like I remember when they wanted more, laptops for certain math activity or something like that. And if we have those as kind of specific asks at each of the tables, or maybe that would prompt more, of the community or the folks at the event, to give towards that specific, I'll do 100 laptops, or I'll do 25 laptops for whichever school. Again, purely brainstorming, not anything I've thought through, like how the logistics of that would work or whether that's even feasible, but I figured I'd throw it out there.
Well, I think that's great. And I think we have time to figure out where there's so many needs. I think we've got time to figure out what do we think could really bring that impact. But what I'm hearing from you guys is that it doesn't feel like it's the worst idea. Like it feels like we could go forward. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, that is maybe not the best way, but it feels like it's a viable idea to kind of go forward and to get our community excited about. Because I think I really want to make sure that it feels like it's worth people's time. It's, as board members, it would represent you guys well, like in the work that we think is doing. And that's where I really want to make sure that, your expertise is.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not deterring people from like, oh, this is not really about me going to the school. This is about another way to raise money. So maybe there's like, if you just want to participate in the Principal for Day, that's cool. If you do want to join the luncheon to debrief and hear from leaders, it's a 20-minute, $20, $15-20 to cover the cost of lunch, or there are sponsorship levels that maybe you or your company would want to do is, 50, 100, 500, or 1,000, just, as to make sure we don't lose people that need to see that, but might be deterred.
That's a really good point. And for me, I guess I'm basing it a lot on who participated last year. It was a lot of, companies that participated. We had several, I feel like, folks
Candidates.
What?
A lot of political candidates.
Oh,
also.
yeah, political candidates, and then those, and nonprofit leadership. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, this event has always been really good about changing perceptions for folks. it was thought to have brought in a lot of partnerships, long-term partnerships for the schools, but the data actually does not support that. So if we are able to transition to this model, it is a way of getting that support without, it was just a little bit awkward at the lunch because principals, they're not fundraisers usually. That's where we come in. So if we get to ask for that support ahead of time, and then to Melissa's point, they can show their guest around of this is what it's going to help at our school, then that's a little more organic for the school leadership at least.
And then Julia, I was going to ask you any insights because you were so involved with the previous lunches. Like what things you might resonate or you think steer clear of?
If we want to talk just lunch, I have plenty of ideas, but I feel like there's so much like logistical that I'm not sure if we want to get into the weeds on that yet. I agree with Chris that I don't want it to be a deterrent where it's like, oh, they're just asking for money. Another red flag I see is that I've always been as an educator of the thought that we need to do principal for a full day because these people need to say how hard it really is. But understandably, I was told that was not practical. But then is that an issue? If these people from the community are telling you they can only commit to half a day and then they have to go back to their places of business, are they going to want to stay for an hour and a half lunch? Because it sounds like timing was already an issue.
So for the last few iterations of Principal for a Day, we have done the half day, and then almost everyone has joined for the lunch. It's actually been a pretty good turnout. And why we moved it away from the full day is because principals were also giving us feedback. Like, I have some really boring paperwork that I have to get to, and I can't do it while I'm walking this person
That's where
around
I
the
think we should
school.
then put them in a classroom for the second half of the day. But clearly, I clearly have an extreme bias here. What was I going to say? So, okay, yes, noted. And I will say, I think with my experience planning the WEF luncheons are great because the overhead's so low. You know, it's like it's actually not a ton of work. It's a lot of it can be a lot of bang for your buck. It's like you don't have to do all the stuff you do with even. Yeah, and like the costumes and is it themed and like you can kind of, pardon the expression, but you can kind of cut through the BS with a luncheon.
Question: Do we ever invite like members from the neighborhood advisory boards to go to their schools or bring the people that are kind of really active in the community to come and look at their schools? I mean, because I think that would be interesting. Not necessarily the city council person, but the people on the board that are active in those areas.
Do you want to?
Yes, we do. And actually, we do not have trouble getting folks signed up to participate. It's usually a few principals who aren't able to host someone because they have a conference to attend or something. We usually have more community leaders than we do principals.
Yeah. And then I just also want to ask the gentleman online, either Brian or David, I know you're there and sometimes it can feel, it's harder to participate, but I just want to make sure if you guys had opinions or things you want me to capture that I do.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, David.
Cool. No, I just started going into the weeds too, just as kind of an event planner myself, just thinking about logistics wise, if almost like I was thinking, and you kind of answered the question, Brittany, I was wondering too, if folks, if they're going to be there for half a day and then do a lunch, would they be willing to do so? But you kind of answered that question. And cause I was more so thinking maybe it's a kind of almost like a kickoff orientation breakfast in the morning. Everybody meets, gathers, kind of give them their assignments, and they hear from somebody from the school district, and we send them on their way to the schools. But I think you answered it as far as doing that versus doing a luncheon. If we had good attendance at the luncheon, that's a good sign. I wonder too, because in the past we've had organizations like EDON or maybe it's the chamber this time or whoever, maybe we partner with them as far as the luncheon is concerned to kind of get a larger gathering as well.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate that.
Any other final thoughts? It sounds like we do have some time to plan it out, but as Michelle mentioned at the beginning, if anyone has any other ideas, plenty of time to bring it up or email Sarah, and we can get those noted and start thinking about that. So February 2026.
And we'd want to work on it really heavily, start marketing at least a quarter in advance. You know, that was something that we saw last time, but because it's going to be changing, we'll be having a lot of conversations, but just thinking about that so that we can have a good idea. So just so everyone knows timeline, we really want to run on this.
Okay. So like marketing October-ish, you said?
I think so.
Quarter in advance. Okay. All righty. Next, 207, update on Ed Alliance's organizational improvements, including data migration, financial management changes, and impact reporting.
Our impact report is almost finished. We're working on it so hard. Yes, it's for calendar 2024, but this is not something that has been done for the organization for a number of years. And we're really just trying to show that transparency to let people know exactly where their dollars go when they support us, as well as the value that we bring to Washoe County School District, because I think that's important and not everybody understands that. So we're really looking to quantify that. And then that is a metric that we can bring forward year over year. So that's exciting. We're getting there. I'm hoping by the next time we meet that you guys have it in hand, even if it's only a couple pages and you feel like, yeah, this is good. We are in the midst of our customer relationship management tool data cleanup. That is taking us longer than I would like because Brittany and I are only two people. And so it turns out we have one or two things that happen. And so going through and deduping all the stuff is a little onerous, but we are moving that direction, and we hope to have at least one of our fall newsletters go out on that platform. And we're just hoping that it feels more successful and people are hearing from us. We definitely have been reaching out to past supporters, and not everybody says that they get our newsletter. So even at the board, if you guys haven't received, we wrote one in March, we wrote one in May, we wrote one in last year. Like we have this correspondence. So if it's not coming through, please let us know. And then still working to modernize our finance systems, really hoping to do that at the beginning of this fiscal year. So really looking to try to figure out a way that we can just streamline it a little bit and hopefully add a little bit more automation. So I'll keep you guys in the loop on that. And I think that's it.
Can I just add something, Sarah, which I think she's done a fantastic job, her and Brittany. For the first time, I think, at least since I've sat in this chair, we are going to have monthly meetings with the superintendent, with Sarah, so she can kind of give an update of what's going on with Education Alliance, see what his priorities are, hear directly from him, exactly some directions maybe that he'd like to provide. And then we're also including visits in his engagement plan that I'm going to be presenting to him in July. So Sarah's going to be connecting him with some key donors in the community where she attends with him. And so that we can really capitalize on, I think all of us would agree, Superintendent Ernst is very approachable, extremely knowledgeable, and very likable. And so I think when you're hearing from the leader of an organization, that makes a big difference too.
All right. Any questions, discussion on that? All right. 208, presentation from the Washoe County School District on highlights from 2024-2025, the school year, including graduation events across the district, as well as RTC moves to make bus service free for the students of Washoe County.
I feel like I'm talking a lot. So it is my pleasure to highlight the end of our 24-25 school year. Last week, we wrapped up the last of our 19 high school graduations. And many of you guys will know we also have graduations that go into the summer and early fall, because we want to make sure, that schedule does not always work for all students. And sometimes they need to push through into the summer and they need to push through to the beginning of the fall. And that still counts getting them across the graduation stage. But we had 19 high school graduations. It was a time not only to celebrate their academic success, but really to focus on that support from the families, the teachers, the staff, and the community. And I would just say on a personal note, as a member of leadership team, we're able to sit on stage and support the schools, and there's nothing better than watching those kids walk across the graduation stage. Some of them seeing, Superintendent Ernst, who was their previous principal, and them just light up, and seeing, for example, Principal Nakashima over at Reno High. As you all know, he used to be at Swope, and watching some of those middle school kids, it was pretty amazing to watch that. And then at the end of each graduation, staff members, if they had a graduating student, they were able to come and walk across the stage with them. So that was pretty amazing. Our projections indicate that we'll be at or above our graduation rate from last year, and we're thrilled to see so many. As Sarah mentioned earlier, I think another great highlight to share is our key community partnership is already making a meaningful difference in the community. Our collaboration with RTC to provide free bus service to students. And it's not just Washoe County students, it's youth across the community. So it's more than just about transportation. It's about access, equity, and opportunity. It's about removing a major barrier to get to and from school in supporting attendance, but it's also improving engagements and helping families in a real way. We had heard from some families, maybe they could afford that ticket over to, say, Wild Island, but they can't, their parents are working and they can't drive them over there. So it's giving those students that access to go over there. In the first 5 days, we had almost 200 students access the program, which I think is pretty impressive. For more information and to access the free rides, students or families can visit washoeschools.net/youthridefree, and they will be able to download a QR code and get everything set up there. So pretty amazing. And then hopefully some of you saw this already, but I wanted to end on a positive note. But in case you didn't, we have a year in review video that we created. It does not include all the remarkable moments, but it captures a few moments that made this year so special. So take a look.
Reflecting on this remarkable year, my first as superintendent at Washoe County School District, I'm incredibly proud of the way we've come together, students, staff, and families alike, to create an environment where everyone can thrive. From classrooms to construction sites, from community meetings to celebrations, this has truly been a year of progress, growth, and collaboration.
In 2024-25, the Washoe County School District took bold steps forward, with student success and community partnerships at the heart of everything we do. This year, our students demonstrated academic growth and resilience. Test scores in math improved in multiple grade levels, and schools across the district continued to expand access to college and career readiness opportunities. This year, Reed and Damani Ranch High Schools stood out as top performers in concurrent enrollment with the University of Nevada, Reno, giving students access to dozens of college-level classes. Reed Raiders achieved a remarkable 95% success rate, while DeMonte Mustangs reached an exceptional 97%, setting a high bar for academic achievement and college readiness. TMCC high school students earned more than 1,700 college credits this year, with many completing associate degrees while still in high school. These achievements reflect the dedication of our educators and the determination of our students. We launched the new Early Childhood Center at Cold Springs Middle School and expanded our teaching and training pathways at Sparks and Spanish Springs High Schools, helping to grow the next generation of educators. At Mitchell Elementary and Trainer Middle Schools, family outreach helped reduce chronic absenteeism and re-engage students. This work earned district-wide recognition and brought the community together around student success. Our student athletes earned regional titles in cross-country, volleyball, and wrestling, and student performers from drama to music are showing the depth of talent across WCSD. Construction progressed on major projects at Vaughn Middle School, Stead Elementary, Incline High, and the new Central Transportation Yard. These modern facilities reflect our commitment to safe, high-quality learning environments. We celebrated students like the Reno High We the People team, state champions once again. Our teachers earned national recognition, including Allie Gallus, a Milken Educator Award winner, and schools like Drake Elementary were honored for excellence. When the Davis fire broke out near several campuses, our emergency teams acted swiftly to ensure the safety of students and staff, demonstrating the strength of our planning and partnerships. We deepened connections with families through parent-teacher home visits, continued important conversations about rezoning and school rebuilding, and expanded career and technical education opportunities. Together, these efforts help strengthen relationships and support long-term student success. As we plan for 2025-26, we're focused on academic growth, student voice, and safety. Design work for Echo Loader and Matthews Elementary Schools and Reed High School is underway, and we will continue to invest in family partnerships, staff support, and student belonging.
This year reminded me of the power of public education. To our family, staff, and community, thank you for your trust, your feedback, and your partnership. I'm proud of what we've done together and even more excited for what's next in the Washoe County School District.
And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for all those updates. That's great.
Question, yeah, well, first, love that, love all of that, love the video, like, it's awesome way to catch up. While you have the spotlight, I don't know if you can answer any of these questions, so, do we know how the, increased ICE enforcement is affecting our absenteeism yet in the school district?
We don't know, we don't have a number with it, is what I will say. We do know that we have families that are obviously extremely concerned and they're scared. And so I think that's impacting it. But chronic absenteeism, as Sarah mentioned as we got a presentation, it is so difficult to identify all the different causes for it. Right. But we have been obviously our family school partnerships has been really working with our families to make sure that they know that school is a safe place for them to be.
But you haven't seen, at least at this point, like significant increase in absenteeism about that same time?
Not to my knowledge, not that anyone has shared with me.
And what can you share just about how budget negotiations are going?
Negotiations, I'm not part of it,
okay.
And those are obviously behind closed doors when it comes to that. But I know that there's several negotiations that are going on. I'm hopeful because I think this district and their employee groups have, sometimes they're coming to the table and they're button up, but it seems like they always at the end come together for what's best for obviously the students, the community, and staff. So
yeah, when I said negotiations, I didn't necessarily mean like employee, but just in general. Like I know it's not a great year to be budgeting.
Yeah, but budget, I will say budget's difficult. We are extremely fortunate, and I would say it if he was sitting in the room, is our CFO and his team and our budget are fantastic, and they have done their due diligence over the years. And so we were able to, like other entities across the area, dip into, whether you call it reserves, whatever you fund balance for a period of time. But yeah, it's tight right now. But I'm one of the leadership team members that sits, and we're talking already about 2 years in advance. Like where can we trim up? Where can we reallocate money? Where does more money need to come in? I think when you look at the strategic plan, we want to see what's making the actual difference. Right. So when we had put funding towards those, are we seeing an impact, or should that be shifted somewhere else? So
I feel for all of you and appreciate the work you're doing to help leadership understand the impact that Sarah, you, Brittany, are making here too. So.
Well, and I think we've talked a lot about that. I think one of the things that we need to do as we continue to go forward is really help people understand why those gaps exist, why there's an organization like this that, you know, is targeted on something when maybe it is only a very, very small percentage of the overall budget, but there's still a need and you can still make a difference. I mean, I really think, because I think there's a lot of people who think WC1 can pay for all of the things. They don't understand the limitations. I think they think that with a general budget, that teachers should be able to, you know, buy their own classroom supplies, that they, you know, that principals would be able to put on staff appreciation events. Like, certainly that's part of the budget. I mean, there's just so much that people don't understand, and I think that's work that we get to do over the next year.
That really hyper basic awareness is surprisingly needed.
Any other questions for Michelle? No? All right. Thanks, Michelle, for sharing that. At this time, we'll go to item 301 for public comment. Any public comment at this time?
None at this time.
Okie dokie. The next meeting will be August 25th, 2025. So enjoy your summer, everyone. We'll see you August 25th, 2025. And 303 will adjourn the meeting at 5 o'clock on the dot. Look at that. Wow.
Thank you, David and Brian. Yep, for attending.